Welcome to DotLife, Dorchester's hyper-local source of news, commentary, and analysis. We are recording from the record company, and you may be hearing some ambient noise of someone recording their band down the street in the studio next door. We are really happy to have that backing track. And I'm here today with Seth Daniel, the news editor from the Dorchester Reporter. Seth, what do you think of the backing track we have today?
Wow, you always need some good music in the background to keep things going.
I know. I feel like it makes us kind of legit.
It's bass. You know, some heavy bass.
I kind of want to dance. I don't know.
Right. Either that or it's like a car driving by. I don't know.
Hey, Seth, did you catch the NFL draft this weekend?
I did, many times, and in reverse order, too.
What did you think of the Pats' moves?
I thought they were pretty good. It's always not very glamorous, but you got to draft people, big guys who are going to protect the guy who throws passes, and that was the key. I remember so many years ago when they were rebuilding for the second time or something, they drafted a guy out of Colorado, and it's like, what in the world, just a big 6'6" giant guy. But he ended up being great, and Tom Brady loved him. And I think that's where they're headed again. They drafted a tackle again from LSU.
Was it Will Campbell?
It was.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. So,
I thought that was a good move. That suit, the green.
Yeah, that's his thing. It's maybe he needs some, I don't know, maybe some more New Englandy tips on how to dress it. Maybe in the Bayou, that's cool. But
we picked Miles Harrison or Maxwell Harrison first, and he the silver spangled. Yeah, I don't know.
Yeah, it's weird. The clothes they wear, it's strange. It's some of them are more conservative, and others are, trying to make a name for themselves. But I did think they did a good job, all the way from the top to the bottom. They did get a great running back from Ohio State, who probably should have gone higher. So we'll see what happens with him.
Didn't you also pick Farmer? James Farmer, is that his name?
I don't know. That's a good question.
I think we had our eye on him, and we got a lot of our picks, I think, snatched right before we got them. So
I know that's one of the tough parts of the draft.
Yeah.
You gotta move fast.
Hey, are you wearing the right headphones? Because you've got another set of headphones right in front of you.
Yeah. Well, I thought like when I'm on, I would bring in something, kind of as part of DotLife, the things we'd find in our cellar, or maybe that come out of the radiator when we're vacuuming.
Are you sure you didn't find that in a museum somewhere?
Well, I might as well. It was my cellar or my third floor, one of the two, and you could definitely put together quite a history lesson up there or down there.
What have you got?
So what I have today, I brought is a Sony Walkman, circa probably 1991. Now this was an edition that was actually an upgrade because it had a very cool digital screen here where you could see the radio station or the track playing.
This has radio and tape deck?
Radio and tape, yeah.
Wow.
It did. And the radio wasn't so great because there was, no antenna. and then when you went in the subway underground, it was just like So I got a lot of use on the red line, the orange line, every other line with this thing, green line. And there was a tape in here.
Wow, look at that tape. Oh, my gosh.
Yeah, that side and this side. So what's on it? Be careful.
Seth, you were very cool.
Maybe. I don't know. Let's listen to this and we'll find out. I don't know.
So what do you think is on that tape?
Probably like a combination of Sonic Youth would have been on there, some sort of hardcore band, Eric B. and Rakim, the Beastie Boys. It was a lot of like South American bamba drumming, and just all kind of jazz, probably some jazz music.
Okay,
blues.
That's an eclectic mix.
Yeah. I did a little DJing, so I tried to like figure out what people would want and mix it all together. Certainly, what was the Guru? The guy named Guru. He was from Boston. He was a hip hop guy. So he would have been on there too.
Where did you live at the time?
I lived in two different places then. So it would have been JP, so in Hyde Square.
Okay.
But prior to Whole Foods, that was when it was
high-low, right?
High-low, yeah. High-low, and you couldn't park in the parking lot. But you could sleep there. I lived there, and then I lived on Fort Hill, like behind Roxbury Community College.
Yep, okay.
and then got married. We moved to Dorchester in early 2000s.
Okay.
And this is still, it's in the house. It was in the cellar. They tried to throw it away. I pulled it out of the garbage. I said,
you found this secondhand. Wow.
No, it was mine, but it was stored away. A lot of my things get stored away.
In the hopes that you'll forget about them.
Yeah, and it was in line to go out, and I said, "You can't throw that away. This is history."
Wow, I'm very glad that you brought it today.
Yes, thank you. So that's my little thing. Next time I'm on, Lord knows what I'll find.
Do you take that when you go to a story? Do you record audio with it?
No. Well, I could.
Do your interviews with it?
Maybe I will. That's not a bad idea. If you have any batteries, we can get to work.
All right. Well, your tape deck relic notwithstanding,
Yes.
let's get into some of the news from the Reporter this week.
Definitely.
One of the coolest things that was on the front page is the second church in Codman Square got its new steeple this week.
It did.
This has been going on for a while.
A long while, yeah.
So you were there.
Yeah, I was there when they took it down. I heard secondhand when they found catastrophic rot, which meant lots of money and time.
That sounds like a band.
It's a great band. I would like a shirt that says that.
Catastrophic.
I'd wear it proudly. Yeah. So
and you'd have a tape of it.
Yeah, we could do the whole thing. And they should play at Dorchfest.
Absolutely. Next year.
Yes. Anyhow, so the second church is the new CPA program, which is community preservation. They've really utilized that well, and they've been able to get a lot of funding. First, they were just going to kind of repair it, but when they found the rot, it ended up they're going to have to take it all down. So they took it down by a crane. There's a dome and then like a lantern. They call it a lantern steeple, which is like the columns that go around it. And they took it all down. They worked on it. They ran out of money. It sat there for a long time. Then they fixed it again. They got money. And last Wednesday they put it back up. The top part. Earlier in the winter, they put the lantern part on.
This is with a crane? They lowered it?
A very large crane, yeah. And, the wind blows.
Were you nervous? Did you think
I was nervous.
Yeah.
I mean, this thing is hanging. It looked like someone made a joke and said, "Is Katy Perry on that thing?" Because it looked like it looked like the thing that they supposedly went into space with.
Yeah.
And anyway, they put it on. It's blowing, and there's guys standing up there on the top, seemingly with nothing holding them on, grabbing this thing. But I mean, they're professionals. They do it every day.
Yeah.
And it was interesting. I mean, it hadn't been taken down since 1808, probably.
Wow.
And it was put all back together. It's at a minimum going to last another 200 years.
Wow.
Because, they use some, it's a historic preservation, but they also, epoxied things to keep them, weather tight. They're going to put copper on top of the dome. It's going to look beautiful. I mean, if you can remember when they did that to the State House.
Yep.
And the new copper really shines. And then they just got some money. We just found out this morning a batch of money to repair the clock that's on there below it. As well as the rest of the tower, and they're going to get the bell in working order, and they hope to ring the bell. Their bell is a Paul Revere and Company bell.
That's
one
cool.
of the few around.
Wow,
it's up there right now. It just it can't.
It just hasn't been rung. Okay.
Yeah, because the things that hold it in place would just fall apart.
Oh wow.
So they were able to get some new infrastructure that holds it in place. Actually, from Park Street Church.
Okay.
Their bell, they had a new belfry made, and they gave it to Second Church. And so it's going to continue to live in Codman Square.
And they just found out this morning that they're going to get that money.
They did.
Wow,
They
cool.
just found out. They had hoped, but today it was announced, and that's really good. That just means that it's going to really look like a showpiece. It's kind of been a little blighted, and then there's a park being built right next to it. The second phase is to have another piece, and it's going to be like a green. They call it. The village green. It's going to really be like that. And
it's such a cornerstone piece in that
right.
little intersection there.
Yeah.
What is the time frame on that? Do you know?
So as soon as they finish the work that they're doing now, which would be like the copper and getting the carpentry done, everything in place on the steeple, they'll probably just move right into this other part, which is going to probably be a little more glamorous because it's going to be stuff you can see. There's going to be one of the faces of the clock is glass, and the clock itself was donated by the Baker chocolate family.
Okay.
So, the lofts that are still there, they went to that church and they donated the clock. And the glass part, there will be lighting behind it. So there'll be colored lighting and all sorts of for whatever time, you would want, whatever season. And it's just going to be a really nice thing. They already restored the Great Hall across the street, and it's still undergoing some renovations too. So the whole area is really getting an uplift.
That's awesome.
Historically.
Yeah, very cool. Similar story around the development side of things, the Shawmut area. We've had this housing development, years, different proposals.
Many. Right.
This latest iteration obviously has been going on a couple of years now, I think.
Yeah.
And there's been several lawsuits. Latest one just wrapped up.
Yeah. So, there has been many things. This one, it was refined. It went back and forth. The neighbors are really unhappy about it. Most of them.
Can you talk a little bit about specifically what this is? The Epiphany School lot, right?
Yeah. So there's an auto body shop there, Fitzpatrick Brothers. It's been there a long time, and the family is just sort of winding it down. The business is winding down, and housing is a better use. Now, what kind of housing has been up for debate for a long time?
Yeah.
And there's been a couple different developers. In fact, the current developer has proposed something and then scrapped it and left, and now he's back.
It was originally townhouses, wasn't it, or something?
Yeah, well, there was that. There was another developer who proposed something like 30 units, more of a townhouse type of thing.
Yep.
The neighbors there, it's Melville Park. It's historic. All the homes are intact. And they kind of think that it should remain something like that, adhere to the zoning. And they went as far as filing these lawsuits. And they've been going through court. This one, these three were really dismissed on a technicality. So you had a certain amount of time to respond. In some courts, you would have 60 days. In this one, you had 30. Maybe someone, I'm not sure how that happened. They didn't respond. And so it was thrown out. Are they going to appeal? There's a possibility.
Yeah.
We don't know yet. But that's still being worked out. But it's been going on a long time. That debate was really fiery. I went to a few of the in-person meetings, where they presented the early plans, and there were people very upset with it on one side, and then there were people actually on the other side who were like, "We need housing. This is a where else if not next to a red line stop."
Very close to the T.
Well, yeah. I like
steps
across the street.
Yeah. It is a small lot. I do understand.
It is small. It's a lot of housing in an area that doesn't have that. But I mean, if you look around, there are buildings that are older, probably from the 60s that were built there. But there hasn't been anything this big in a while in that area. And, it's a bigger thing. I've got a story I've been working on for some time about that, where there's, not this one in particular, but a lot of where you're talking about the side streets, 1, 2, 3 families, and all of a sudden you'll see they're going to bulldoze it and build a 9-unit building or even 22 units. And so, there's a lot of that squeeze going on as more people want to live here. It penetrates the neighborhoods, and, there's a fight. There's people who've been there a long time and they want to keep it the way it is. There's other people who say, hey, I want to live here too.
Yeah.
But where?
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
You were able to attend, I think, some of the Black April commemorations this week. How were those? Which ones did you go to?
So I went to one yesterday that was at the Dorchester Vietnam Veterans Memorial, which is much smaller. It was a group of former refugees from Massachusetts and New Hampshire. They had a flag raising downtown at City Hall yesterday. I didn't attend that. But I went to this one out here. It was small. And
that's right. Is that on Marcy?
It is.
Okay.
It is. And they said their piece. They said it's important to fight for freedom. It's not guaranteed. It's a group that knows.
Yeah.
Anyway, the bigger event, though, was on Saturday at Boston College High School.
Okay.
Which was the commemoration event that's been put together, sort of a cornerstone piece of what's been a longer year-long effort, which is pointed at putting a memorial in Town Field. In Fields Corner.
Yep.
That's still ongoing, and that was a part of this. But honestly, this was event on Saturday was really polished and really well done. It had an exhibition that was museum quality, which is looking for a home. It may find one someday soon. The hope is that it will be permanent, and it's of a quality that should be permanent. The work that's gone into it's amazing. And then there was also, I would almost say like a musical, like an American musical that they put together with dance, music, skits, and even guest speaking. That was all blended together on a massive stage. It was probably a good 600-700 people who attended.
Oh, wow.
It was very large. And what was the thing to really note was that it was almost like it was healing, like in real time. People were healing from these wounds. I mean, they're just we can't even imagine it. Of what they went through, what their parents went through, even those that were born in the United States, trying to understand, what was this war, and there's so many different varying viewpoints. And even here in America, I don't know that we've taught it at all, if we have, probably not that well.
Yeah.
People still don't know what to think about it.
No, I think it's been more of a let's just ignore it kind of approach. Yeah.
Right. I mean, when I was in high school, there were still refugees arriving under the humanitarian operation, which you'll see a lot of people in the Dorchester parade who wear the South Vietnamese Army, Air Force. Those guys and their families came in the 90s, which was really an effort of John McCain, who had been a prisoner of war. And when he got back, he didn't let it drop. He didn't ignore it. He kept fighting for them. And they were able to come in the 90s, but they had been through so much. A lot of what was talked about there was dealing with some of these guys, these soldiers. Some of them are in their 80s, some of them in their 70s. And they, Black April is when the United States left. The war changed. China became more friendly with us, and Vietnam wasn't that wall against communism anymore. And we kind of just softened, and we wanted to leave. Yeah. And we did. And it's much like Afghanistan, actually. I felt the same then. And these guys were left behind. And what happened to them, they were put in re-education camps, tortured. One guy from Dorchester was telling me he was tortured for 8 years. He had been like a public information officer, like press. Okay. And he had worked with all the American networks. And then when we left, he was put in this camp. And he escaped from the camp about 8 years later by bus, and then on a boat, and then ended up safe in Dorchester in the 90s. So there's a lot of scars. Then there's the people who came by boat in the 80s, who were traditionally like just civilians. And that journey, that's a whole other story, that harrowing journey overseas and being captured by pirates and tortured and unspeakable things. But, when they did get here, it was hard. We have so many resources now, right? When people arrive, we can see that right now with the state. There's a big debate about that, about how much we're going to spend on people who just arrive in tough situations. But in the 80s, when these folks arrived, there was nothing for them. No one spoke Vietnamese. There were no services for them. A lot of times the oldest child I've heard so many stories, they were sent to the Fields Corner Library or one of the others in Dorchester to learn English from a book, a dictionary, so that they could help their parents figure out what to do. There was nobody helping them. They had to just learn on the fly. And there's a lot of scars from that too, It's so reminiscent. Well, it's so
it reminds me now of the Afghan translators who
100%.
We have all but abandoned in many cases and just left to fend for themselves after they were so supportive of us in our efforts during the war.
I know it's a troubling trend, and I feel the same way about Black April as I do about how we ended Afghanistan. Yeah. And it's just too bad. I mean, and what's remarkable about the Vietnamese Americans here in Dorchester is that, if I look at it from an American point of view, and I'm like, I would never want to talk to, I would hate the American government. I'd be so upset. But there's nothing like that. They still are just thankful. And they're like, they came over here and died for freedom. They're fighting for freedom, and we can't forget about that. And, there was a guy who's actually going to be one of the an honorary parade marshal for the Dorchester Day Parade, and he spoke at length about what happened. He was speaking to the kids, actually. He was telling them, there's so many questions you have. We haven't been able to answer them because it hurts too much. Now we're going to answer them. What happened? And he told it from his perspective, which I thought was interesting.
Yeah.
He said, we won the war. We won every battle, but we lost the war.
Wow.
Yeah. But it ended up we lost the war, but we never lost a battle. We didn't really lose to the North Vietnamese in any battle that mattered, but we ended up losing the war and in our country. And that was tough, to explain that. And, there's kids who are 14 and 15, and they're trying to comprehend that. They were born here.
Right.
They only know Dorchester, Fields Corner,
right.
Adams Street. So it was interesting. And, he was saying how in 1972, I believe it was Nixon visited China, and it changed everything about the war, and it changed how America supported the South Vietnamese, and it led to the end, which was us leaving so abruptly in 1975. And so he went through all of that, and then at the end he was just saying how, but we love America, we love that they came and that they protected us, that they never forgot about us after they left, and they brought us here. And he said that the things are so hard, but, now we've succeeded. He's talking to the young people. You guys have done well in school, in arts, politics, and business, and we have a future that's free, which is all we ever wanted. And I'll tell you, I fought back tears. My connection to Vietnam is like family and friends who were Americans who went over there, some who didn't come back, some who came back and were never the same. So it was a really emotional moment. What a transition period we're in for that community and the American veterans too. It's a very touching thing on Memorial Day at the Dorchester Vietnam Veterans Memorial. The South Vietnamese soldiers come, so do the Americans. They all get along well, and it's very unique. Yeah. And
really important to keep those moments alive. Yeah.
Yeah. Not to forget, and especially to explain to the younger generation, we have an extraordinary resource because we have, firsthand information from both sides. Right here in our neighborhood, as opposed to a textbook that might water it down or mix it up.
Or may not even be addressed.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. So it's something I've always found interesting since the first time I watched the Dorchester Day Parade, and I'm like, why are those guys here?
Yeah.
Who are they?
Yeah.
How'd they get here? A lot of people don't. I've heard people who misunderstand and they boo them. They don't know what they're there for. Why are they here? I hope people maybe begin to understand what they are here for and what they represent, and what they went through.
Yeah.
Particularly the soldiers. The refugee situation is a different story in itself.
It is a complex topic. It is a complex relationship, but it is worth taking the time to understand.
Yeah. It's a very rich community and very patriotic.
Yeah. Oh, somber. But
yes, let's have a laugh.
Sticking with the somber topic, actually, you also went to the Terrence Clark Day. Can you talk a little bit about what that was about and who Terrence Clark is?
So Terrence Clark was a young man from Dorchester. He went to, I think a lot of places claim him. Roxbury claims him. Yeah. We claim him. But he did. He went to school in Dorchester. He went to the Davis Leadership Academy at one point, which was in Fields Corner. It's now closed. And he was just developed into a great basketball player. He ended up going to some private schools, the River School, which is in Weston, I think, and then the Brewster Academy, which I think is in Western Mass. But anyway, he became a great prospect, a great high school basketball player, really talented, generational, actually. And there's a lot of good basketball players that come out of Boston, and he was noteworthy. And he went to the University of Kentucky, and he spent a year there. It was off and on his time there. He was hurt, but he was certainly a huge prospect. He was considered a lottery pick, which in the NBA would be like, I think, the first 10.
Okay.
So, it's big money.
Huge, yeah.
That's why it's the lottery.
Yeah.
And anyhow, they he was training in Los Angeles. He was 19 years old, 2021, and just preparing for the draft. He was training with a couple of other people, and he got into a car accident, and he died in that car accident one day coming from training. It was a hard moment because he was really looked up to by a lot of young people, a lot of people his age. It was also 2021. A lot of things got lost in that period because we were still in COVID, and we were arguing about shots or no shots or, whatever it was, masks or no masks. And his death kind of maybe got a little overshadowed by that time period, like everything else, honestly.
Yeah.
And it was also in Los Angeles. So the news hit here, and it was tough, and it's been tough for young people. And what the news was last week was they named a square for him, which is at the Vine Street Community Center, which is a hub for basketball. Now, they've already named the court there after him.
Okay.
Very, very soon after his passing, actually. And if you play basketball, you're a young person in particular, Vine Street is where you go. And he came out of there. He played there as a little kid. I once talked with his father at a different event. They have a turkey giveaway in his name every Thanksgiving as well.
Yeah.
And that's something he wanted to do, actually, and so they carry it on, his family and his parents. And his father still remembers dropping him off, and everybody knew he was exceptional once he got to that high school age. And one of the key things that was said the other day was that his dad said Terrence always wanted people to know him, know who he was. And the funny thing was they all thought it was going to be through basketball. But in the end, it hasn't been. It's through, his name living on to give back, whether it's the turkey drives, all the things that they do now for him in his name. And he was only 19. He cut short. But his name really has lived on, and he's become well known, but not for dunking the basketball or hitting three-pointers. So it's really remarkable what they've done to keep that going. And the people who remember him, it's a strong group, hundreds. There's a strong group of coaches, youth coaches, and they all work together. When they see somebody who stands out, they pick up the phone and they get noticed.
That's great.
And that happened to him.
And that will live on now. That's
yes, it
cool.
will.
Quick update on White Stadium.
Yes.
Just a couple of little things that were announced this week. So block party permits required. I'm sure that went over well.
Yeah, that's going over. Well, there's just the idea is to keep people. There's no parking.
Yeah.
So when this is up and going, honestly, it's just 10,000, and I don't know if they're going to sell out every game, but you'll have thousands of people at one time coming, and they have no parking, so they don't want everybody coming in and clogging up the neighborhoods. So they developed a walk shed zone, basically, and it's just a zone of streets. There's 203 streets where this will apply. And JP, Roxbury, Dorchester, I think about a third of them are in Dorchester. So you're talking the Four Corners area by Franklin Park Zoo, Blue Hill Avenue, and Grove Hall. And what's going to end up happening is these protections, there's going to be a lot of towing and ticketing, so you can't drive from wherever you are and just park on Seaver Street and walk to the game. That's not going to happen. They're encouraging people to take shuttles from T stations. One of them would be at JFK, UMass, or to take satellite parking shuttles or any other. They have an Uber lot, rideshare, I should say, not Uber. Anyway, and so that's the whole purpose, to really mitigate for residents. But in the process of trying to mitigate, it's a tough area. It's not easily accessible.
There's no train anywhere near there.
No. So it's a tough area, and what they end up having to do is you're going to have to, we all have the neighborhood stickers. Some people, Dorchester. This will be a new white stadium.
Okay.
Right? So you'll have to have that. Otherwise, you're going to get towed or ticketed. And you get one visitor pass.
Okay.
Right? These are for game days, not all.
So if you're a resident, you just keep that on your car all the time.
Right.
And you can have one visitor. Is it like a placard that you can transfer? Okay.
Right. It's a placard.
Okay.
and you put it on your visitor's car. So this is during game day, so games, this is another thing that I think there was a misconception that, when they were talking, the city gave examples that games would be on Saturday, practices on Friday. And they said that many, many times. But really, it's up to the league and television.
Yeah, right.
There are television deals, and games are going to be when the schedule comes out. And this is for next year, March 2026 it starts. It could be on Friday, they could be on Saturday, or they could be on Sunday. And occasionally on a weekday, maybe.
Okay.
Right? So that means if you live in that area, you're really going to have to be on your toes.
Right.
You're going to have to think ahead. And that's an area where you've never had to think ahead because there's nothing happening.
Right.
There's not a massive event. There is the Caribbean Festival. So you do, people have practice on that. And they don't necessarily like having to think ahead for that.
But the Caribbean Festival is a lockdown situation, too.
It is.
Yeah.
And so people are thinking, now I've got to have that festival. There's other festivals that are a little smaller, but they're still there. There's the BAA half marathon.
Yeah.
That is a lockdown situation if you live there. And now you're going to have 20 professional soccer games, too.
Yeah.
And so in order for the city to try to figure out, now that there's more, what if I want to have a family gathering after church? Or what if I want to have people over for a birthday party on a Saturday?
Yeah.
How are we going to have all those cars come in with one placard? You're not. So now they say, why don't you get a block party permit? And so now they're in a position, the way they've explained it, and they're still getting input. It could change. But they're in a position where you'll have to apply for this permit. And then the city's going to review it to make sure it's a legitimate family gathering.
Right.
That it's not some scam.
You can't just do this every Sunday.
Right. And serve Budweisers in the backyard to people coming to the soccer game. I have a new occupation. I'm a host. No, so you can't do that. But, people are wondering, that's maybe a little, do I always know when I'm going to have a group come over for, hanging out? Do people come spontaneously? Can I plan 6 months ahead for, having people over in my living room?
How long does a block party permit approval take?
Great question. Long time sometimes.
It's not fair to say you have to plan ahead to have an impromptu gathering. Like, I get why people would be annoyed by that.
I do too.
But it's only for parking. It's not that you can't have people over. They just can't park in that spot.
They can't park there. They would have to walk or take the T or do something like that. I guess they could take an Uber, but I think that circulation is going to be
a ride share, Seth. A ride share.
Yeah, I'm going to learn. But anyway, I think that circulation is going to be difficult too.
Yeah.
Right, and this is 8 hours, so it's 4 hours before the game.
Yeah.
The game's about 3-4 hours, and then 1 hour after.
Okay.
So you're talking all day, and that could be on a Friday. We haven't even begun to talk about if there's a game on Friday, that's maybe it's at 5. Mm-hmm. There's a health center right there. How's that going to work?
Yeah.
I don't know. There's a lot of other things, too. We don't know the schedule until January. If you're having a graduation party for your son, daughter, nephew, niece in May, you're going to have to book all that way before January.
Right.
So we don't know. There's a lot of unknowns. I mean, it's a tough situation if you live over there. You're going to have to really get used to something different.
Yeah.
So
yeah.
That's the news.
Yeah. Last item, a little bit more fun.
Yep.
Taste of Dorchester.
Yes.
Was last week.
Oh, it was great.
You went?
I did go. I always go.
What was your favorite dish?
My favorite dish. This year, it was not a dish, but it was a drink. Fresh Food Generation, which is on Talbot. They also have a food truck.
Yep.
It's been around forever. They have a liquor license coming any day.
Yeah, I was going to say, they don't usually do drinks, do they? That's
no,
new.
It's a new thing. So they've passed the city's licensing board to get one of the new liquor licenses. It's still being they're being background checks and stuff at the state level. They should get it any day, before the summer. So they previewed some of the drinks that they're going to have.
Cool.
They did a mocktail. There was no alcohol, but this is kind of the taste you're going to have. They kind of put a few of them out, and they were great. They were really good. I can't wait to go down there. They have a deck, a little outside patio. That'll be nice. So that was one of my favorites.
We should say this is the Massachusetts Affordable Housing Alliance signature
Yes.
event.
Oh, yes. Yeah. Taste of Dorchester is raising money. They do home ownership. I think I had to go to Maha before I bought my house. I took the class. And so many people have gone through there. And it's also just a fun event. It's at the IBEW. So there's parking. It's easy to get to otherwise. And all the best restaurants are usually represented. And there's always a few new ones that spark up conversation. There was a cake place this time, Clark's Cakes, which is out of Commonwealth Kitchen. So it's doesn't have a brick and mortar. But they did, and I didn't even know it. It was a vegan cake, and I had no idea. And it was very good.
Okay.
And even my teenagers were impressed with it. And they didn't know either. So we came out of that, discovering that place.
Are you vegan now?
No. I'm not. I'm not and won't be. But it was, it was good. It was well done. Let's see. I'm trying to think of another dish. I mean, there's the Jamaican place, Merle's Kitchen.
Yep.
Which is on Washington Street, always has a massive line. This year, I didn't even wait in the line.
Really?
But it is always a favorite.
Who won?
They haven't announced yet, as far as I know.
Okay.
I did not hear yet. There was a very interesting dish from DJ's Market, which is a Polish dish.
Okay.
Called Hunter Stew. That was hearty.
It sounds hearty.
It was hearty. Cabbage, kielbasa, carrots, but a really good taste.
Is it served over bread or something, or is it just
served over like a lot of cabbage?
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
It's like a stew.
Yeah. Okay.
And that was a really good one. That took me by surprise. They also have their Polish donuts, which I already knew about. Those were good.
Yeah. That's near your office, right?
It is. Yeah, it's on Boston Street.
Okay.
Yep, that's a favorite. What else? Shanti was really good this year.
Okay.
Indian,
yep.
Cuisine. I enjoyed that a lot. Their presentation, they had it on some naan bread, and it was really great. I thought it was a good dish too.
So we'll have to keep our eye out for who wins this year.
Yes.
Awesome.
Yeah. Yep.
What's coming up next week? Anything that you're looking forward to?
Yeah, next week we have quite a few things coming. We're ramping up because Dorchester Day is coming, and there's a lot of stuff in between that. You have Mother's Day, Haitian Unity Parade is coming, the Memorial Day. There's a lot of different things there. Dorchester lost its Memorial Day, other than the Vietnam veterans. Used to be a really big one at Cedar Grove, and we kind of lost that, and it hasn't come back.
Yeah, Bill and Linda mentioned that was one of their favorites.
We really need
back in
that
the
back.
Day. Yeah.
I don't know what to do to bring it back, but
Yeah.
so we don't have that. But one thing I am working on is some research that some teenagers did, the Bold Teens in Codman Square. I think they're part of Codman Square Health Center, but it's a teen program. It's been around for a long time, and I'm just working on. I won't give it all away, but they did some research on smoking. They got a grant from this anti-smoking group and statewide group, and they began checking the stores. But they, in the end, found that the real action is online, and in our neighborhoods and on scooters. So stay tuned for that. So it's I think the whole vaping trend was something that started in the suburbs, never really made it to the city all that much, but it has now made it. The tobacco companies are creative, so watch for that story.
Okay.
Yep.
Great.
Yep.
Well, thanks for joining us.
All right.
Great
Thank you for having me. Yeah, it's been great. We talked everything. We talked Walkmans, NFL draft. And we had some somber moments.
Now we'll have to do a little dance to this music.
I almost forgot about it.
Welcome back to DotLife podcast. We are talking today about urban agriculture and the importance of that program to food security in Boston and in Dorchester in particular. And to that end, I'm joined today by Shani Fletcher, who is the director of GrowBoston and a Dorchester resident. So excited to have you here, Shani.
Yeah, I'm really glad to be here. Thanks.
Yeah, tell us a little bit more about you in particular. Yeah, like I said, you live in Fields Corner, so you're a Dorchester person, and also this program and the office of GrowBoston and what you guys are doing over there.
Yeah, sure. So Yes, I have lived in Dorchester for most of my adult life, and I've been in Fields Corner for most of that as well, and sometimes Codman Square. And I really love Dorchester, and I've been a community gardener in Dorchester, both in the neighborhood I'm in now and in Codman Square as well. And I have been working for the city for the past 6.5 years. Yeah, 6.5 years. And the last 3 have been as the director of GrowBoston, which is the Office of Urban Agriculture. And that office just started at the beginning of Mayor Wu's administration, and she's really passionate about food security, and she launched both our office and the Office of Food Justice at the same time. They're kind of our sister organization or sister agency, and we GrowBoston is located within the Mayor's Office of Housing and builds on the work over the last 30 years of that department. In establishing food producing and other open spaces on city land with federal money. So that program is called the Grassroots Program and is our largest program and is now part of the GrowBoston office. And we've expanded that work to include now beyond developing sort of new gardens and farms and food forests and open spaces into being able to support gardeners with raised beds and education and looking at larger farm sites and looking at how we can, using rooftops because land is at such a premium, and thinking about integration of food growing with housing and also supporting like beekeepers. And so really just trying to find lots of ways to support urban agriculture as a means of both food security and community building across the city.
Okay. That's really interesting. And, I think when you talk about things like beekeepers and food forests, it's unusual. Like it's something people don't think about in the city very often. So I think, can you elaborate a little bit more on the food forests? So what are they growing?
Well, food forests are really exciting. Oftentimes they use like permaculture techniques. They're open generally to the a community garden you might would find has garden plots for individual families to be able to grow food for themselves, and a bunch of different people are growing in the same place, but they're growing individually in their own little area. And a food forest is really it's sort of like a mixed orchard. It's not like all one kind of fruit tree, but it's usually a mix of like fruit trees and berries. And a lot of times, like I said, they use permaculture methods, and which has to do with planting complementary things with each other and shaping the soil to really take advantage of rainfall and that kind of thing. And so there's things like being grown in Dorchester. I know there's persimmons. There's medlar, which is like a Middle Eastern fruit. There's Asian pears, as well as like apples and peaches. And I don't know if there's like outdoor. I think there probably are figs. There's some hardy figs you can grow, hardy kiwis you can grow. And then definitely all kinds of berry bushes as well. And some of those are some like longtime native fruit producing plants, whether trees or bushes that are sometimes like things like pawpaws is something that's like.
Have you ever had a pawpaw?
I have. It's like really good.
Really? What is it? What is it similar to?
It's sort of, I feel like it tastes like somewhere between like a mango and a banana maybe. Oh. It's definitely like a very tropical flavor.
But it's native.
Yeah. I mean, I think it's tends to be in New York State. This is not quite where there's a lot of them, but they definitely do grow here naturally.
Oh, I got to find me a pawpaw.
Yeah. I think there's some in the Arnold Arboretum.
Okay.
People go there and find them.
Okay, cool. I was there the other day actually.
Yeah.
It was so nice out.
I think it's like probably late summer. Maybe
Okay.
I'm not. Don't quote me. On that.
You're not a pawpaw expert?
I'm not a pawpaw expert, no. But they're delicious. I can vouch for that.
And what about the beekeeping program?
Yeah. So the city council passed an ordinance last spring that made beekeeping allowable across the city, and it's sort of like a lot of technicalities of zoning that why it was previously limited to very few areas in the city. And so now it's allowable across the city. And there are certain parameters that you need to like register your bees so that if someone calls and complains, like my neighbor has a beehive, then inspection service will be like, yeah, we know, they told us, like, and they're following all the rules, and you can't, get rid of them.
Yeah.
So what we try to do is with beekeeping and anything else is try to create resources that will be useful for folks. But yeah, there's a lot of beekeepers. There's a really strong community that's been existing for a while, and there's I think there's a little bit of commercial production, but mostly it's people growing like producing honey for themselves.
That's cool. I would love to have bees. I'm a little nervous about the idea. Do you have to like have the gear and go in and smoke
Some
them and
people,
stuff?
you can't. That's what a lot of people do, and
Okay.
some people are way braver than I am and just go in like without all that.
Oh, no.
because they just feel that they're very calm and serene and are able to not disturb the bees. And,
What
but
if
those are like
that's
experts.
that's a gamble.
Yeah, I think those are the real experts who do that. I see videos of people doing that, and I'm like, that would never. I can't imagine that doing that ever myself.
Yeah, no, me either. And then you talked about raised beds. Obviously, that's something that is more of a residential offering, but I have seen those
Yeah.
in like schools around here. Is that some of what your program offers?
Yeah, we've worked with Boston Public Schools. I mean, they've done a lot of they've been able to invest in a lot of raised bed gardens before we started collaborating. They're about 90 now, I think. We were able to help build like 11 gardens of those like 90 last year, and we're working on now. We're helping them with building out and rebuilding really.
Okay.
8 more that are much older. We've been able to support them in that work, but they've really got that down. They've got, I don't remember how many total schools there are, but I think they're aiming to get gardens at every school, or outdoor
cool.
classrooms at least at every
Yeah.
school. And when we have the funds available, we've tried to collaborate in that way.
But a lot
Yeah.
of those are obviously going to residents, right? What does that entail? If you get a raised bed, and I know you said those 4 neighborhoods, Dorchester, Roxbury, Mattapan, and
East Boston.
East Boston are the
Yeah.
priority. If you were to apply for one and be approved, do you get everything? Do you get the kit and the soil and
So those beds are being so we're primarily distributing those and building those at the homes of low-income residents, low-income households. We are doing some at public facilities, and the what you get when people have raised beds, when they are able to get a raised bed through our program, they get the soil. It definitely comes with the soil. It is not just the frame.
Okay.
The soil, I think 12 seedlings, and no other, like there's like tools and stuff you would have to acquire yourself.
Yep.
But your library, some libraries have some things like that.
Okay.
And if your library has a library of things, sometimes they have some small items like that. But yeah, it's definitely, it gives you like the basics to be able to get the garden going.
Okay.
And then you might need to supplement with a little bit of materials, but.
And there are educational materials online, I believe.
Yeah,
on
we
your
have some
site.
educational materials online. We also have in those 4 neighborhoods we've launched this spring the Urban Agriculture Ambassador Program. So we have, I think 3 are hired and 1 more is close to being hired in, as I said, each of those neighborhoods. So an educator that can provide a one-on-one support to anybody who's especially people who are new to gardening, but also for people who are more experienced. Maybe they have pests that they don't recognize. They can like call on this person to support them. Come look at what they've got, or go to workshops at that location, because they're housed at nonprofits in those 4 neighborhoods.
Okay.
And we also have, when people get a raised bed, they also get a like pamphlet that's got some basics in it about gardening.
Very cool.
Yeah.
All of these very cool programs. That's a lot of work there.
Yeah.
Tell me a little bit about your staffing and your what kind of funds you're working with. I know you mentioned federal funding. Is that something you're concerned about drying up at any point?
Oh, that's a great question. We are navigating the situation as best we can. We do have the grassroots program is federally funded. It's funded via, I think it's called entitlement funding, and it's a formula-based system. So we are hopeful that will continue.
Okay.
And we don't have any other big risks at the moment in that. On that front, we have about a budget of like a $1.6 million a year, and our staff, we have 4 staff, including me, 2 program managers and a program assistant, and then we do a lot. What we really do a lot of is granting funds to nonprofits who are doing the actual work.
Got it. Okay.
In the communities.
Got it. Talk about why this matters. So this is all very cool stuff, but what is the ultimate goal? What is, we talked about food security at the beginning of this. How does this type of programming feed into greater food security in areas like Dorchester?
Yeah. Urban agriculture really has a lot of different benefits. I mean, one thing is that it was interesting when the pandemic happened, there was like a real there's always been a lot of interest in urban agriculture, especially in the last like 15 years. But I think there was a real surge of interest in community gardening in particular, and I think that was because there was like definitely some impacts to the supply chain and the global food system, and people wanted to reliably have like fresh vegetables like right at their door or like in their neighborhood. So we know that is that it can supplement the larger food system. We don't, it's not really in a city Boston size. We wouldn't think we would be able. I don't think there'll ever be a time where we can grow all of our own food in this city.
Yeah.
But we can grow a lot regionally, and we can also really supplement with what we can grow in the city. And then we also have, there's really, such great community building aspects of urban agriculture. It's definitely something that like brings people together.
Definitely.
And so we think of that as like a real resilience strategy, both for things like climate change and something like COVID, but any kind of crisis really. To have stronger community always means you'll, sort of survive better. And then there are some impacts. I mean, there's definitely the impact of urban heat island effect, like relieving heat for people. Both like it is not a pavement, and so it and it processes sunlight. So in heat, so it's cool. It can be cooler. It can be a place to be in shade. And we know that is a great benefit. But yeah, in terms of food security, like it's particularly it is an affordable way when someone has access to like a garden plot to be able to have like fresh, local, and oftentimes organic vegetables at very low cost. It's like a real a major health benefit because people don't it's not costing you what it would cost you to like get that from a retailer that has like those kinds of things available.
Yeah, and to your point, it's never going to replace some of these other options, but I think there are a lot of neighborhoods and areas that have kind of food deserts where there aren't great options for supermarkets or even like bodegas in the area. So having a community garden there, at least a few months out of the year, you can get some food from a much closer area. So that's really helpful. What about economically? What do you see, as benefits of urban agriculture economically?
Yeah, I think what I was just talking about is probably that's the first thing that comes to my mind in terms of like people not having to spend really like buy really expensive organic fresh produce in like a grocery store. There are definitely some jobs in urban agriculture. It is not a highly paid field, and growing food is not something that is. I mean, because just like food, it's like a lot of why food that's not healthy for you is so cheap has to do with like massive subsidies that make it cheap, but it's not actually cheap to produce food.
Okay.
And so it's hard to, it's not, and people are growing food, but trying to meet like a food security need. It's not a big moneymaker.
Yeah, right.
And it's important, and it's very important, and that's why it's a priority for the city and for all these organizations that we partner with. But I do always hesitate to. I mean, there can be jobs, and there are entrepreneurship opportunities. I think there are definitely some people who are exploring things like container growing, which you can grow a lot of food in. And when I say container, there's a kind of container growing that is like growing tomatoes in like 5-gallon paint buckets, but then there's like shipping container growing. Yeah, that's what I'm talking about. Yeah. So there are some Freight Farms is a local company that has that has partnerships all over the city and has several different containers, and you can grow. That's hydroponic growing, where you're growing in water with nutrients, and that is so much. It's like a lot of vertical growing in a small space. Okay, so somebody can. I know there's some entrepreneurs in Boston who have pursued that as like a small business, and so that's an economic opportunity that's like different than like certainly like a community garden is not really an economic opportunity. Yeah, right. But there's other ways that people can. Be and there's some commercial farms operating as well. So there are ways to make it a business, but I just always try to like be honest about how tricky it is. Yeah,
I believe Freight Farms is actually in Dorchester or maybe Southie, right on the border there. They're on Old Colony, right?
Yeah, they are. Yeah,
very cool. Yeah. You guys are also associated with or have some affiliation with some of the actual farms in Boston. I think you, in particular, Shani, were part of the Revision Farm. Can you talk about what those farms are doing?
Yeah. So, Revision. So, Revision Urban Farm is part of Victory Programs, which is a large organization that has many shelters and substance use disorder facilities, and this farm is located at Revision Farm is located at Revision Family Home, which is a shelter for women and children in right on the border of Dorchester and Mattapan. And I worked there for 6 years, and I was the grower for 3 years, and then the farm manager. Urban Farming Institute now operates that farm, and they also have a site. Urban Farming Institute also has a site. It's on Glenway, I think. Glenway Farm. Okay. And the Food Project has a farm site as well. Their main Boston site is right also on the border of like Roxbury, Dorchester, at West Cottage. So
and they do farmers markets, I believe. They
do farmers markets
at farmers markets.
They have the market until they come, and they also do a CSA. Okay. I forget what all the other ways they distribute food are, but they have a really strong youth development program that uses like farming as a youth development model.
That's great.
It's pretty great. Yeah,
that's very cool.
And they really pioneered the raised bed program, and we have as we talked about the individual beds that we're building. That's they've been doing that for like 10 years. So they're really experts on that.
Got it.
But yeah, we work with a lot of different organizations, and there's some really strong ones in Dorchester.
I would imagine there's some, I don't know if I would say outcry or dissenters about urban farming, but there's got to be some folks who are like, wait a minute, we need more housing. So why are we using land for farming? Can you talk about the dichotomy there and why there should be room for both?
Yeah, I think there is room for both. I mean, we, as I mentioned, we were located within the Mayor's Office of Housing, and that often when I speak to colleagues from other cities, they're like really surprised, and they're
wait, you're not fighting
so jealous.
With housing?
Yeah, exactly. They're like, oh, our nemesis is the Department of Housing, and we really have a really incredible relationship with the folks within our department that are working on affordable housing, which is most of our department. Yeah. And the folks in particular who are developing vacant lots into affordable housing. We really look to the community and work with the community closely to be strategic and to like respond to the needs of each community. So sometimes a community is really in need of more affordable housing, and sometimes they're really in need of more open space, and there's a lot of density already. And sometimes a lot of communities need both, but we try to think together with residents, with neighborhood associations. We talk amongst ourselves in the department. We think about those sort of housing targets, and then think about like, okay, in this area, there's like 5 parcels that are in the city's inventory that we could turn into housing or open space. And occasionally we do commercial spaces.
But you're not buying land.
This is the land that we develop with the grassroots program is all land that's in the city's inventory through tax foreclosure.
Got it.
And it's gone through like a long process in the courts and like,
Yep.
So we usually will figure out in that kind of a situation that like, okay, well, 4 of these parcels, and working with the community, 4 of these parcels will become like affordable homeownership opportunities, and 1 will become like a community garden or a food forest. Okay. And like I said, we have like a really ongoing. We meet every other week to talk about that process of land going back into the hands of the community, and we try to be really thoughtful about both our chief Sheila Dillon and the mayor. Really value the importance of open space and, of course, the importance of having enough affordable housing. So those are both important goals.
Adding that open space and that project space, especially if it's a community garden, to a neighborhood helps everyone in that neighborhood. As much as a new housing development may or may not, the open space is really benefiting all of the residents. It's elevating the health of the neighborhood. So I think there's a lot to be said for adding strategically some more thoughts like that.
Yeah, totally.
What other?
I just was going to say that we are also starting to explore how we can think about larger housing developments and providing urban agriculture opportunities along with those developments. So just in the very beginning stages of exploring that, but thinking about like, the limited space in Boston on the ground, and how do we think about where we've got like maybe a 200 unit building going up, could we add a community garden to that roof?
Yeah. That's
knowing
cool.
that there's not a lot of not a lot of space for growing food right around the building, but maybe on top of the building.
And that, to your point earlier, also helps with the heat islands, because the roofs really absorb.
And you can combine that with solar, and you're really maximizing the rooftop for environmental benefits.
That's awesome. What other departments do you collaborate with?
Oh, the list is so long. We have a cross-agency working group, which just met last week. that has probably like 15 different departments as a part of it. We work with inspectional services, water and sewer, public works, Boston Public Schools, the libraries, the community centers. I'm forgetting a lot of people. Boston Housing Authority, which is the Office of Youth Engagement and Advancement. I'm forgetting people, but those are some of the key. Oh, and the Office of Justice I did mention before, and we're working also with the Office of Climate Resilience and in partnership with the Office of Food Justice to think about what are the food system aspects of long-term climate resilience that we want to be collaborating on. So yeah, there's a lot of kinds of partnerships. Some of those partnerships are where we're mostly collaborating in the sense of like establishing raised beds and providing education, so like the libraries and the community centers, and then there's other ones where we're talking with inspectional services about how to make the bee, like working together on the fine print of the bee registration system and that kind of thing, and with us having the sort of frontline knowledge of what beekeepers, of the beekeepers themselves, and then ISD's obvious expertise in like implementing the ordinance that they're supposed to be implementing. So those, which we are getting into like nitty gritty policy details with other agencies, and we're also doing things like, building gardens and that kind of thing.
So your specific team may be small, but it's mighty because it's
Yeah.
very connected with
Yeah, we're
everyone
very
else.
collaborative across
Yeah.
the agencies, and that's been a priority since really like the beginning, basically, of our office.
Are there any plots specifically? I know you mentioned Revision, which is kind of Dorchester, not totally, and Food Project is Dorchester, I believe. Right?
Yeah, the Board of Roxbury. Yeah,
Roxbury,
UFI
Dorchester.
has the Glenway Farm.
Okay.
more in the middle. But.
What about community gardens? Or
Oh
things in
yeah, there's
Dorchester?
tons of community gardens. I don't know how many total there are. I can say that the grassroots program has established 34 open space projects, mostly food producing in Dorchester over the last like 30 years, and about 10 acres. So a lot of that is most of that is probably community gardens.
Okay.
There's at least a couple food forests in Dorchester. There might be more than that, and one of those is sort of near Franklin Park, and one is in Codman Square. No, Fields Corner.
Okay.
And then there's Nightingale Garden is a garden that people may have gone to like for events. That's a really big garden. I forget exactly how big it is, but they've got like 140 plots.
Wow.
Which is like huge. So 140 families are growing food there, and they are not small plots. They are like good size.
Wow.
And they have fruit trees as well. They might have bees. I'm not sure. And so Nightingale is like a really kind of hallmark of the community garden system in Boston. But there's many community gardens. There's 2 on the street next to me, in Fields Corner. There's all over the place. And then as I mentioned, the food forest. So there's a lot of food production happening in Dorchester.
So people in Dorchester, if they, for example, want to get a plot in a community garden, or if there's other ways that you, as the director, would like residents to get involved, what would you ask them to do?
Yeah, great question. So I think if they're interested in raised beds, they should talk to the Food Project. That's who's building raised beds this year in Dorchester. Oh, and also the Urban Farming Institute may have some I think they're building some in Dorchester as well. Community gardens, the easiest thing to do, the Trustees of Reservations is an organization that they own like 56 of the 80 to 90 something community gardens in Boston. So if you went on the Trustees of Reservations website, I think you'd probably look for Boston Gardens in their search on their website. They have contact information for those gardens and can help you find something that may have some space. We have a directory on our website. So if you Google GrowBoston, all one word, no space, there's on that website. We have a community garden and an urban farm directory actually, and we're working on updating some of the information. We have a lot of gardens have wait lists, unfortunately, which is why we really prioritize our grassroots program, because we are trying to build more gardens. But we have a small staff, and there's only so fast that we can go with developing a space on city land. But those are some of the ways that I would say to look into it. And if you do that outreach and it's not going well, feel free to be in touch with me, and I'll see what I can do.
Awesome.
But we know that there is like a lot more demand for garden space than there is currently, especially community gardens, and that's partly why we've been doing the raised bed program. And I guess the last thing I would say is like also look at your like a local community center and library and see if they start a gardening program, because we are building quite a few gardens at those site spaces, and those will be for community use, collaborative community use as well.
And I know your website is loaded with resources, reference materials, educational guides, things that people can use, even if they aren't having a raised bed, just have their own garden or curious about gardening. There's a lot to
Yeah, we have
there.
like 10 or 11 tip sheets, 10 tip sheets in 11 languages, I think is
That's
what it
awesome.
is. And those are like the kind of more advanced. So we have resources we direct people to for like intro level gardening, and then we also have these more like tip sheets on specifically pest management or dealing with weeds or dealing with trying to grow more sustainably, that kind of thing.
What's the most annoying pest?
The most annoying pest. My sister would tell you it's rabbits.
Oh my gosh, they eat everything.
They eat everything, and she really hates them so much. And I have never had a big rabbit problem in any of my gardens, but I know people who have those are like very angry at those rabbits. Yeah.
I would agree with that. Last question, Shani. You're from Dorchester.
Yes.
Where do you go to eat?
Oh my God, I have so many favorites. I guess like Vietnamese food is for sure. I mean, living in Fields Corner for so much of my adult life, like I just like has a special hold on my heart. And pho hoa is probably my top go-to. But I also love Saigon chicken. They have some great stuff that like a lot of other people don't have. There's something like 18 Vietnamese restaurants around Fields Corner, and I've tried only probably like 3 or 4 of them because once I have a favorite, like a favorite dish, it's like my go-to. Yeah. But also I love Shanti Indian food and. There's so much great food in Dorchester. It's hard to pick.
So that's fair. I'm getting that response a lot to this question, so I feel like I need to broaden it up a little bit.
It's like, don't torture me.
I can't pick just one. Shani, it's great to have you here. Really appreciate your time.
Thank you so much. Great to meet you and great to be here.
DotLife is supported by the record company, Boston's leading provider of accessible music creation spaces. The record company is addressing the critical shortage of affordable creative space in our city, serving over 4,000 monthly users across 131 communities. They've preserved 47,000 square feet of professional studio and rehearsal space at rates 60 to 90% below market value, ensuring Boston's musicians have a place to create, regardless of economic means. But they're more than just affordable space. They're building career pathways through partnerships with Bunker Hill Community College, offering professional certification programs that lead to sustainable music careers. This vital work is at risk. As creative spaces continue to disappear across Boston, the record company needs community support to maintain these essential resources. Their Amplify Boston campaign directly funds space preservation and career development programs. Visit therecordcompany.org today. That's therecordco.org to donate, become a monthly supporter, or learn about partnership opportunities. Every contribution helps keep Boston's music ecosystem thriving. The Record Company, creating accessible pathways to music creation since 2010. Welcome to the TinyDot concert for this week. I'm here with Cara Lately.
Hello.
Who is a stalwart Dorchester musician. Cara, when I reached out to you about being on the podcast, you said something to the effect of, I'm the most Dorchester person there is. And I wasn't really sure what you meant until I met you. But for those who haven't met you, can you explain what you meant by being the most Dorchester person?
Oh, absolutely. Well, I was born here, raised here, and I'm proud of it. If you know, you know. I'm like a third-generation Dorchester resident. My family, established roots in the neighborhoods back in like the 50s or maybe the early 60s, and we still have family that lives there today. You know what I mean? Not only that, I had the honor of being Little Miss Dorchester 1998.
I did not know I was in the presence of royalty.
Oh, yes, now you know.
Very exciting.
It was amazing. It was like a pivotal moment for me, just as a young woman, giving me that confidence in myself and my abilities, and it really, I think, propelled me going forth in my life. You know what I mean? But yeah, I mean, we are huge. We're always, we have a huge pig roast on Dot Day, and I helped judge the pageant last year. This year, I am so thrilled to be performing at Dorch Fest, and I just really am proud of my roots. I'm a Dot rat, and you can probably hear it all in the voice.
So give me a little more specifics. You grew up in Fields Corner?
I grew up in Fields Corner, probably till I was about in my preteens, and then I moved over to the the Neponset area, and I was probably there until I moved out into my own apartment, which was, right over the bridge in Quincy. But yeah, so my whole entire, birth through 21 was spent on the streets in Dorchester, playing in the parks. We have all my family and friends is from there, and it's a wonderful community even now.
That's great. I found you applied to play at Dorchfest, so I got to listen to a little bit of your music. You have a fantastic voice, a great
Thank
style.
you.
Can you talk about, I think you're fairly new to the music scene.
I am fairly new. I mean, I've been singing since, I could, but I haven't been songwriting forever, I've always been a poet, and I've always been, good at writing essays and such, but I never had the idea to even write my own song. But I had a friend of a friend that was a pretty good audio engineer, and I said, hey, will you help me make my own song? Because that's kind of a dream come true of mine. Karaoke, open mics, I'm always doing covers or singing other people's music, and I wanted one of my own. And one of my own turned into 8 of my own, which turned into 14 more that I haven't even recorded yet. And it's just been a snowball effect. I took, did all the behind the scenes work and got myself published and licensed and on all streaming platforms, Cara Lately. And the reception has been just overwhelmingly positive. People believe in me. They're like, go for it. You have a talent and go for it. And everyone's even more so impressed with the lyrics. They're like, you wrote this? I'm like, yeah, I did. And I'm getting better and better with each song. And I am just like on a trajectory forward, and I'm not stopping.
That's fantastic. You're like a sneaky poet that people didn't know about.
Oh, yeah. It's a little tortured poet. You know what I mean?
That's great.
Yep.
So tell me, what were your inspirations and what's the style of music people can expect from you?
I describe it as like melodic indie pop. You know what I mean? It's definitely has some soul and some, meaningful lyrics, but I also have pop bops too, you know what I mean? I was definitely influenced by, the late 90s and early 2000s, like, radio scene. Alanis Morissette was probably from that period, Alanis Morissette from this period, the lovely Taylor Swift. But yeah, I mean, I think I'm making my very own style right now. And I think that's what people are hearing. And that's what I think people are like liking it. Because it is different than what you're hearing on the radio these days,
Yeah, definitely. So you'll be at Dorchfest.
I will be at Dorchfest.
May 31st.
Can't wait.
For those who are interested. The lineup should be coming out this week.
Can't wait.
Or very soon.
Mm-hmm.
And you can check dorchfest.com if you're listening to see where Cara will be and where others will be and who you want to check out.
Absolutely.
Where else can people hear you?
So I'm actually also competing in the Bridgewater Battle of the Bands on May 17th. I'm 1 out of 10 acts performing for a chance at $500 and a slot on their Prime Music Alley. So that's awesome. Dorchfest is the next. I recently did Hampton Beach Idol. And so that's all I got formal on the books right now, but you can always catch me at your local karaoke open mic, and I'm sure there's going to be many more live performance opportunities for me to come.
And throw your social handles out.
Yes, it's Cara Lately, Cara Lately, Lately, on everything.
Perfect.
Yes.
Cara, can we hear you do some songs?
Oh, sure can.
Perfect.
Alrighty. This one is called 07 November. Oh, to the me who had just turned 18, new girl with glasses and their old harbor scene. Already been hanging around for a sec, just hadn't met this one quite yet. The way he said it, I still remember. 07 November, it was tall in the old polo and shelter. It was fall, jean skirt with the knee-high boots. Didn't hesitate to approach me, typical of a fuckboy from Southie. Even before he led the 3-point line, telepathic exchanges of that one's mine. On our way to a bear in a basement to get wicked white girl wasted. I stand back as to me and crew, snap back when it said I'm going with you. Little did little me know back then, life would never be the spot green skirt with the knee-high boots. Didn't hesitate to approach me. Typical coffee fuckboy from Southie. Even before he met the 3-point line, telepathic exchanges of that one's mine. On our way to a banger in our basement to get wicked wet, girl wasted. Eyes glanced back, headed to me and crew. Snap back when it said I'm going with you. The way he said it, I still remember. Oh, what a time. Oh, 7 November. The way he said it, I still remember. Oh, what a time. Oh, 7 November. This one is called Point Blank, I Love You. I just wanna do it all with you. Snooze your alarm, let's call it till 2. You and I, where my view true. I want it all, and for me it's all you. I wanna fall in love at the rock show. I'll be your plus one wherever you go. I'll be a featherweight, a teammate in every game of Beirut. Even in the wild crowd, I see only you. I want it all, and for me it's all you. Oh, what a time to be alive. On the third rock at the same damn time. There's no other perspective or place, dimension or face I'd rather wake up to. Point blank, I love you. I wanna fall in love at the rock show. Be your plus one wherever you go. Oh, what a time to be alive. On the third rock at the same damn time. There's no other perspective or place, dimension or face I'd rather wake up to. Point blank, I love you. This one is called No Requiem. Starts with a shocking radiating tightness, sensation fading in and out, I just can't fight it. Boom, love bomb, my 4 chambers imploded. Why'd you have to ignite it? Why here, why tonight, yeah? Vocal cord tension, conflicted by deflection. Echoes of chorus voices versus words of avoidance. Arms feel so sore, like a damsel in deplore. Fair weather, no more. It's like throwing punches in a dream. No sound or scream, no rest, no requiem.
Messy, depressing, mascara cheeks, just where you left me.
truth is that all it took. I made my big wish, and then you blew it. Will it get better? And does it even matter? I fell for you, now I requiem for anything. I fell for you, now I requiem for nothing. A boom, love, bomb, all scream, no sound, no rest, no requiem. A boom, love, bomb, all scream, no sound, no rest, no requiem. A vocal cord tension, conflicted by deflection. Echoes of coarse voices versus words of avoidance. And this one is Wannabe. It is the title track off my debut EP, Wannabe Pop Star, and you can find me on anywhere you stream Cara Lately. I feel the urge to get dressed up. Off my feet, I wanna be swept up. So I match my heels with my get-up. Little me was a beauty queen. Now I'm just little me. Been known to cause and still the same. I'm swift as fuck, long live the queen. Stereotypical sub-rock Barbie, 104 in an all-girls army. I make it happen and then say, why me? Thank you very much.
DotLife is produced and edited by me, Erin Caldwell. Technical and emotional support provided by Yasser Mahmood. Additional support is provided by the Dorchester Reporter and the Record Company. Thanks to Shani Fletcher, Seth Daniel, and Cara Lately for joining this week's show. If you're interested in supporting the podcast, visit dotlifepod.com for more information.